people to do it, then they're probably going to carry the show. So need your help to be able to do that, to grow this show, and you can be instrumental doing that. So if you got time on your hands, you can help out, and I appreciate that. And our supporters nationwide, thank you so much for your gifts. You do make a difference. The number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits, from what I see, fell to nearly 44.5-year low last week. In case you didn't hear, supporting expectations of a sharp rebound in job growth in October after unemployment was depressed, as you know, because of the hurricane-related disruptions in September. And initial claims for state unemployment benefits decreased from 5,000 to a seasonal adjusted 229,000 over the week ended October 28th. And the Labor Department said today that it was not too far away from 223,000, a 44.5-year low touched in mid-October. The data for the prior week was revised to show 1,000 more applications received than previously reported. So economists polled by Reuters had forecast claims rising up to 235,000 in the latest week. So the unemployment claims tumble to near 45-year low in sign of a strong job growth. You think NBC News, ABC, CBS, PBS, you think all those stations are going to report that? Give me a break. That's why you listen to the show, folks. We point out the facts, and these are irrefutable. You can't, these are numbers, folks. We get these, and you see those, and to me, I am happy about that, because there are people that needed those jobs, wanted those jobs, and they're getting them. More is happening. More is coming. Good things, folks. Good things. Mazel tov. And I'm not even Jewish. Mazel tov. This is to my Jewish brethren across the country, from West Palm Beach to Mr. Ware, who lives in Washington, D.C., enjoys listening to the broadcast. Hello, Daniel. A space travel neurological disorder has scientists looking at the brains of astronauts. And who am I talking about specifically here? The New England Journal of Medicine. Nice magazine to read. They published the study, which suggested that about 40% of astronauts return from space with what is called as visual impairment and intracranial pressure syndrome, or VIP. The syndrome affects the top of the brain. Newsweek, by the way, magazine reported this as well. They had a little article about this syndrome that affects, again, the top of the brain, which controls sight, leaving astronauts with symptoms such as blurry vision, the swelled optic discs, migraines, and increased head pressure. The problem likely comes, they say, because of the lack of gravity, allows the brain to float protected in a bath of fluid, while on Earth, your brain is shifting. The New England Journal of Medicine study examined 34 astronauts, looking at their brains through an MRI before and then after space travel. And the conclusion, the brain scan showed virtually no changes in the brains of the short-term travel astronauts, but some pretty significant changes in those who traveled to the International Space Station for longer terms. If we see these brains change after a few months on the space station, what might happen on the mission to Mars? Donna Roberts, an associate professor of the University of South Carolina, told Health Day News, the brains might start short-circuiting. Yeah, we're going to have to come up with something like the I was going to say the space shuttle. That was a great program. We like that. But something like the Enterprise from Star Trek. Cabin pressure control. We have gravity. We have the right type of gravities, like on Earth, simulated, so the body can function as it should, and it wasn't meant to be floating in outer space. I can tell you that. We're definitely going to have some smarter folks in physics figure out how they can make that dream. By the way, that's not so far-fetched. But it's going to have something implemented that way, because you don't want to mess around with brains of people that you're going to squash it. And that's what they say. In a sense, the brain is getting squashed. Cedar says that microgravity tends to push the brain upward, but said that more study will be needed to understand its overall impact and how to prevent it. In a sense, again, the brain getting a little squashed. Cedar was telling Health Daily, how long do the brain's changes last? Are these effects on behavior or physical performance? Cedar added that the research could help scientists better understand causes on Earth, like the impact on the brain of people confined to prolonged bed rest, just being stationary. The body, I am convinced, is meant to move. You got to move your body. It's a good thing. It's psychologically just some exercise. Even if you walk 10 or 50 minutes a day, do it. Justice Thomas, Clarence Thomas, brilliant mind, and obviously a conservative, but he was joining Laura Ingraham on her TV show for a rare interview on the Ingraham Angle. And I used to work on the radio network that Laura Ingraham was showcased on Salem Radio Network, and I'm really happy to see that she's got her own show. She is sharp. I like Laura Ingraham. And a breast cancer survivor. Congratulations. And the other thing I really like about Laura Ingraham, she wears a cross, visible for everybody to see. And faith is a big part of her life, and I love that she shows it, and it means something. It's not just a jewelry statement to say, hey, look at my cross of gold. It actually means something, but she is the real thing. She's the real article, and can't wish somebody more luck than Laura Ingraham for her contribution. She has been a bright light on radio, on television, and writing, great speaker, but big heart, and she makes sense. That's what I like her about. Ingraham was pointing out that some had complained about Justice Thomas' apparent omission from the Smithsonian, citing a possible ideological bias against the conservative values. She asked if he ever thought about that, and also about the statues that are coming down in our country. And then she first asked, did he see any of this stuff when he was growing up?
Well, I didn't see that much iconoclasm. I think there were all sorts of other problems.
With the...
But, I think when I grew up and where I grew up in Savannah, the people I grew up with were a different people.
How so?
When you think of people like my grandparents, these were people who had been through quite a bit and had a calmness and a contentment about life, and they understood putting things in context, what was important, priorities, what battles are you going to fight today, what decisions you're going to make, what decisions you're going to make today will result in you being able to eat, those sorts of things, and long term, that these two boys they were raising will be educated and that they will have good manners and go to school and be polite to the neighbors, etc. I think that today we seem to think that everything has to be one size fits all and people can't have opinions that make us uncomfortable or ideas that make us uncomfortable or that we don't agree with. They would not tolerate that.
They wouldn't. But the tides have changed, and the problem is that the left is allowing it to happen. They're allowing it. They're not speaking out against it. They're allowing it to happen, and this is the divide. And I'd love to write a book that's basically titled Obama's Divide, because the divisions in our country started in his administration, maybe not have started, but let me say exacerbated dramatically. We've never been so segmented and so pitted against each other in so many different ways, and stupid stuff. And I blame the media, the NBC, CBS, ABCs, PBS. I blame them for allowing this poison to be put out when there is conservative ideas where people stand for their principles and they articulate them in the Randolph College campuses. They can't speak, or they're associated with neo-Nazis, associated with bigots, just because they have a differing opinion. I don't see people that I know that are calling the left these particular names, calling them neo-Nazis or racist. I don't see it. Unless they're specifically doing it, then they can be called out upon it. But just to label somebody or say they hate an individual without any real tangibles, I think that's a slippery slope. I think it's dangerous. That's why I believe, seriously, that talk radio is more important than ever before to bring these exchange of ideas out so people can hear hopefully sensible programs and not lured with hatred or conspiracies to upset people or fan or exacerbate the fans of hate, because there is hatred amongst a lot of folks, unfortunately, and it even pains me to say this, to the right, but to the far right, that have this mindset that they have the superiority of white nationalism and we are the only race on the planet, and that's racist. And I differ from the white nationalists that might listen to this broadcast. That's not our sole audience. We don't do programs for white nationalism. We believe in nationalism, but not white nationalism. And unfortunately, a lot of these groups decide they want to associate themselves with Donald Trump. And that's why a lot of the right, unfortunately, has been marginalized to that extent and there has to be the denouncing done. And when the denouncing is done, the left needs to lay off. The problem is they've denounced this. Donald Trump's announced it. Paul Ryan, most folks that are working for the White House and the cabinet have denounced it. However, it's just not good enough for him. They would rather him just kick them out, rather than just take them at their word. Forget about their conduct. They don't want to do it. They want to take talking points from ABC News or NBC, whoever it is, New York Times, Washington Post, that puts out the propaganda, and they believe it. They don't care if it's true or not. By the way, all the kneeling for the national anthem, it's cut into the Papa's business. Papa John's. They're blaming the NFL for sales declines. Rips poor leadership. One of the NFL's biggest corporate sponsors said the league's mishandling of players, the player of the national anthem protest, had a negative impact on its sales. The NFL has hurt us, Papa John's CEO John Shatner said during an earnings call. More importantly, by not resolving the current debacle to the players' and owners' satisfaction, NFL leadership has hurt Papa John's shareholders. Your pizza that you used to order from Papa John's. They've been a long-time sponsor of the league since 2010. The restaurant chain has partnered with several top NFL stars, including retired quarterback Peyton Manning and Houston Texan defensive J.J. Watt, as well as 23 of the league's 32 teams. Papa John's has also been a major advertiser during the NFL broadcast for several years, and if anybody can feel the pain and be able to calculate this, people are not watching the games. So they're not ordering the pizza. They're turned off. They're not watching it. There's that backlash, and Papa's getting it. Yeah, but you're not watching the game, you're not eating the pizza. What's better than pizza in the game? Yeah, it still hasn't been fully resolved because they're allowing these folks to be able to do what they want to do. They don't want to stop it. Instead of being able to form an outside group in the community that they say that they are for, or the problems that they deem to have problems with, get out there, be a big brother, be able to get into the communities, to be a positive role model to the kids, to these gangs. and to maybe go to the